Antonio Caruso, welcome to MMA Live TV, mate. How's it going?
Yeah, it's good, man. It's good, brother. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. How have you been handling COVID? Like training in SA, like what are you doing to keep yourself busy?
Um, well, for a while, obviously, with the lockdowns, and that was a bit hard. But now I'm sort of spreading myself out with my time with different gyms and just trying to just level up. Find a good routine, a good like not only just to train but also to learn. So luckily, we've got a couple of good coaches here in Adelaide, and I've been working with them in kickboxing and also in MMA stuff, and yeah,
Yep.
just keep myself fit and positive.
Yep, gotcha. So are you doing a lot of workouts at the homes or have the gyms progressively opened and how have you been easing that
Yeah,
in?
so I'm pretty lucky. I've built a gym into my own house, so like a pretty decent setup. Was having a few guys from the gym that I train with, young lads training with them, and they're coming here working together. But now, yeah, the gym's opened up, back to sort of training. But yeah, for me, it's hard because I've had that such a high level at Stanford
Of
MMA
course.
and working over there with those guys, and I'm trying to find that standard here. But yeah, there's a lot of young talent here, and I'm working with guys, and yeah, just trying to improve.
From your perspective, is there any particular martial art that you're trying to focus on or just leveling up progressively
Now,
overall?
to tell you the truth, probably. I mean, I have a lot for a while. I've had a long focus on wrestling.
Yep.
So I've been trying to work a lot. But since I've been back here, like really focus on like my kickboxing, my Muay Thai, and stuff. So I've been working with Jeremy from Rikers, gym here in Adelaide. He's one of the one of the premier gyms in Adelaide and Australia too. And he's a really high level coach with a lot of ideas, a lot of techniques that I really like him as a coach and as a person. Yeah, and he's been helping me with that. So yeah, focusing on my kickboxing was really
Tell us about the Caruso story. Let's wind it a bit back. How did you get into MMA? Like, how did that all evolve?
yeah, the MMA. So as young lads, like we always like my dad always encouraged us to do sports like football, soccer, martial arts. We done everything. My dad tried to get like music. It was me and two brothers. We grew up, with our dad. It was me and my two brothers, and yes, my dad always had us in sports and in music. It just learning wanted to get better, and yeah, we did martial arts as kids. With taekwondo, a bit of Shotokan, karate. And then I sort of went down the football path when I was about probably 16 and really chased that for a while and wasn't going to sort of get anywhere with it. And yeah, so I ended up like one pre-season, my brother Sav, who's the one older than me, he was doing jiu-jitsu at the time. And he said to me, oh, you should come out and try some wrestling. It might be good for your football. So I went out there, started doing some jiu-jitsu and yeah, I liked it. It was fun and it was really cool. But I sort of skipped ahead there. The funny part of the story is he always encouraged me to come out, and I always said no because I said that what he could do, what he had was nothing. Because back then, jiu-jitsu wasn't, MMA wasn't a big thing. So I was like,
Yep.
oh, he's like, no, you love it, man. Jiu-jitsu is really cool. Like you can submit someone so easy if you know what you're doing. I was like, well, you think you can beat me? And he's like, yeah, no, because I'm an arrogant little brother. And
Yeah.
I was like, you can't beat me. He's like, I guarantee you, I'll beat you in a minute. And I said, $500 if you couldn't beat me in a minute. And funny story, we went down there for that first lesson, and yeah, we rolled, and he got me in like 40 seconds. He
What,
cut
what
me
was
up.
what was the submission? Do you remember?
What did he, I can't remember the first one. It might have been a rear naked. Because I
Yeah.
went in, I tried to wrestle him thinking I know what I'm doing,
Yeah.
because I played football. I was like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. So
Yep.
I went in there, he cut me out like 40 seconds. I was like, all right, all right. I said, double or nothing. So I said, $1,000 said, you can't do it again. And this one I remember. So I kept away, kept trying to run away, trying to keep away.
Yep.
Finally took me down. And then he caught me in a head arm choke. And I literally tapped on 59 seconds. So I still owe
Lovely.
him $1,000, but he's never getting it. All right, I don't pay my debts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
that's the way I got into it. Like, so I was like, oh, cool, that was fun. And I met a few of the other guys, had a wrestling with them at the coach, Peter O'Shea, who was our first, jiu-jitsu coach. And yeah, and I just loved it. And literally football rang me one pre-season and they said, where are you? And I said, oh, I'm not coming back. I said, love it,
Yep.
my new thing. So that's how I got into MMA. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice one. So it seems that family really is at the heart of your support group.
Yeah.
Tell us about that, and tell us specifically about the relationship that you seem to have with your brothers.
Oh, you know what I mean? Like, we come from I guess, like a European background, Italian. My mum's Greek, my dad's Italian. And very family orientated. Like it's I guess in life, especially as a fighter, you learn to do a lot of stuff on your own, but really in this life, you really can't do anything on your own. You always need
Mm.
someone, people supporting you along the way, that sponsors, family, friends. People don't realize the role sometimes that they play in people's lives without even knowing it. I mean, people, it's not always money. It's just even someone to talk to and hang out with. And yeah, and my dad, very much grew us up with that mentality that, I guess in a way, like you back each other no matter what. And me and my brothers have always done that. We've always supported one another. And even to the point where my brothers fought before I did. They were MMA fighters, they were boxers, they were,
Yep.
jiu-jitsu guys. And, I was always the little brother. I never really wanted to do MMA. I didn't want to fight. And they were sort of the tough guys, and they were the ones doing it. And yeah, then when it was my time to sort of step up to the plate, they were nothing but encouraging. Like, a lot of family, even in my story, a lot of my, some of my older cousins and whatnot, sort of, in a way, turning their back on what I was doing. Sort of, never showed me any love. And, in a way, that can happen. It can be jealousy, it can be a lot of stuff. But my brothers were nothing but encouraging. They literally took a step away from their training, whatever they were doing in their lives, and they still do this day. And they help me no matter what I need to do. And like my older brother Diego, he's my manager, and he helps with everything in terms of that. My other brother Savvy, he holds pads for me, trains with me, and he's just always there for me, encouraging me and pushing me. And he was the guy that made me really believe in myself. So, it's something that I'll never forget. You know what I mean? And like I told a lot of people around me, I say it and it sounds cliche, but I wouldn't be where I am without those people. And that's why, people might think I'm putting it on to bestseller, marketing, but it's not. Like, I do what I do for them. Like,
Yep.
I would love to have one day, like, I just wanted plenty of money just so my dad and my brothers never have to work again. And if that's all I, ended up with, that's all I need, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I guess it's from the beginning, my dad taught us that way, and that's just the way we are to this day.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that sort of honor code that you talk about really kind of aligns with one, and we'll talk about that later. But yeah, that everything you said
Yeah.
just resonates at a really good level.
Yeah, because I think, you know what I mean. I think I've always said, without respect and loyalty, I think that they're free to do, free to give, but not many people, have that aspect in their life. And we're seeing it more and more in this day. A lot of people live for themselves, and I feel fine. You know what I mean? Like I said, you always need people around you to, if you come in as a team, and respect and loyalty is free, but it's hard to find.
Yep. Yep.
The big thing is the character.
In terms of your journey into the local circuit, was there any point in time when the penny dropped and you knew inherently that you were ready for a world stage or prime time? How did that come about?
Yeah, you know what, man? Once again, like, that's what I'm. Back to the point about everyone encouraging me. Like, it never dropped for me. It was like everyone was like, "Oh, Tony, you can do it. You can make it." And I reckon up until I signed that contract, I was like, "Nah, I mean, like, nah, I mean, like, I'm good at what I do. I like what I do, and I have fun." But I was like, "Nah." I mean, I look at sometimes like those guys up there, like even guys like Martin, guys like Robbie Lawler. They're just guys that I worked with, trained with before. And you look at those guys and I know they could never be me. And because I guess it's a lot of the times it's the environment you're in. If you hang around people, people say you are, your environment. And I come from a town, Adelaide, I'm in Salisbury. To make it as a fighter, it's it's unheard of. You can't do it. No one's ever done it. No one, and still no one else has done it. And to me, it was like, nah, like, that's for like the Americans. That's for the the Russians. That's for the those guys. They're the ones that go off and do those big fights. And then I guess as I stepped up, people kept telling me from day one, like my brother and some of my good friends like Tom and that other family, and they were always telling me from 5-6 years ago, and I was never really thought I could do it until I guess probably my last fight before I got signed. I was like, what, maybe I can, maybe I'm good enough to take on the world's best. And yeah, when I got the opportunity to go to America and train with Stanford and train under Henry and work with some of those high level guys, it was like, oh, okay, you know what? Maybe I do got what it takes. I mean, like, what is it? What is anyone else compared to me? That's just another guy with 2 legs and 2 arms. So yeah, it was that. Yeah, it's a long journey for me to get here. But yeah, even I just love every step of it, and I'll see how far I can get with it. But yeah, just every day, just loving the ride, man, loving it.
Absolutely. You've got to really love the grind if you want to stay in the fight game, right?
Yeah, and then that's why I think for me, in a way, COVID hasn't been too well. Not of course, I hate what's going on, but for me, like I said, once again, I'm from Adelaide. Not many. It's hard to even find training partners. So my whole
Mm.
life, I was always by myself, and that's why I built a gym in my house
Yep.
because no one ever wants to train as much as I did. So I'm used to being on my own, training on my own, running on my own, and that's where you learn to grind. Like that's
Yep.
what I tell any young lad. Like you got to realize sometimes, your coach. A lot of coaches nowadays, especially that's not their full time job, like coaching.
Yep.
They've got a job as well as coaching. So I said sometimes your coach can't be bothered coming in and train. That doesn't mean you're not going to train. You've got to run. You've got to do this. You got to constantly be pushing to get better and better every day. And if you're not, you know what I mean, then you're not going to make it as a fighter. That's the unfortunate truth.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's interesting when you talk to a lot of people about the whole COVID situation, and not even talking about fighting. There are two camps. One is
Yeah,
really disappointed about it, but there's this faction of people that really find themselves in this isolation. If that kind of makes sense, you cut up the kind of noise, and I think especially in your industry, it's not necessarily the worst thing.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's one thing that I definitely focused on in this, and you know what I mean. It sort of highlighted some things that I was neglecting. Because I wasn't looking after my body as much as I could have been. I finally started looking after my body. I started getting my diet really in check. You know what I mean? Like I said to myself at the start of the year, I said I'm going to walk around at 84 at the highest. You know what I mean? And ready to fight at 77. And I wasn't. I was at 88 until probably about April. Just after. And then my brother sort of said to me, he's like, man, you're the one who said you're going to do this. So,
Yep.
I really started started focusing internally on myself and going, all right, these are things I can improve in while we wait for this time because there's no point talking about it, no point crying about it. So I could improve in those areas that I have. My body's never felt so good. My weight's never been so good. And, I feel strong, I feel fit.
Hmm.
It's just now I'm just waiting for the time to get my chance again.
Absolutely. So, mate, you get into one, you sign the contract, your first fight with Peter Baust, no scrub on a winning streak. So they put you in there. We obviously know the outcome, but when you run that fight in your mind, if you do, what were some things that surprised you about your opponent, or was it a level change? Or talk us about that.
I watch the fight back every now and again, because once again, like I said, I've been internally, assessing myself, and yeah, you got to go back and watch. You can't always watch what you did right. You don't sit there and watch all your highlights.
Yeah.
You got to watch what you do wrong, I think, as well. You got to, stay positive and be happy with stuff you've done, but also think how you can get better. And I actually watched the fight back. I think it was on Tuesday. I was watching it,
Yep.
and what was disappointing is I feel like I feel like watching that fight, I controlled like 80% of that fight, but I didn't do anything with it. That's what I felt like. I was able to get him in the areas that I needed to. I was having him up against the cage. You know what I mean? I was pressuring him, but I wasn't capitalizing. And Peter, when it was Peter's time to go, and you even see him with the Edward Falang fight, same thing. Peter is a guy, he waits, and when he gets you, he gets you. And he hurts you, and he punishes you. And he's good at that. And I've definitely got to say two things that really surprised me. Peter is super calm, super relaxed the whole time he's in there. He's experienced. He's a seasoned fighter. And two, his timing, really, really good timing. And the way he reads punches and then he comes back in off them. Even with his kicks, you see him once do the Edward Falang, the way he's able to slip that low calf kick, finish off on the high kick. Peter's got really good timing, so he's a very good technical fighter. And all respect to the guy in the world. But yeah, you know what I mean, like. I feel definitely if we, and I hope I do get the chance to run it back. And I feel like there's areas that I can definitely beat him in and get the job done this time. But until then, all the best of luck to the guy. He's a good fighter and he's also a great guy. So like I said, after watching it back, yeah, there's some things that I definitely feel like I could have done better in and won that fight. But you live and you learn. So
absolutely. And as a fighter, this is an interesting one. One championship, the rule set is totality of damage as opposed to the round system. Because you're right. Because arguably, I was watching the fight. If you were basing on a round system, you could say you took the first one, you had the takedown, you had ground control for most of it. The second one is close, but you could arguably take there. And I think that speaks to what you're saying, where Peter was very, very calm. Because, does that play in your mind, or is that a new thing? Because when you were in the amateur circuit in Australia, it wasn't that system, right? It was a round system as well, was it?
Yeah, so like I never had an amateur career. I went straight pro.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you're saying, it was round by round the 10-8 system.
Yep.
And going into this fight now, it doesn't, because I think as a fighter you go in, and that's why I really enjoy the rules that one of brought in terms of the scoring and also in terms of weight cuts. But the scoring, I mean, I thought it was great because like we could sit and we could argue that maybe you did win that fight, this and that. But realistically, Peter won the fight. If that was going to go to the death,
Mm. The
I
judges.
mean, who knows? I would have kept kicking and biting. But
Yeah.
I mean, Peter to me won that fight. I mean, he was the better fighter between those 2 rounds. And I think that's a good way to judge. But in saying that, I mean, I guess it's so hard to judge MMA. They haven't really come up with a perfect system yet. But yeah, I don't disagree with the way that they judge. I personally, like I said, I felt at those times I was controlling more. But if I was a judge, I would have given it to Peter too.
Yep.
And I like that how they do the entire fight rather than round by round.
Gotcha. Tell us about your affiliation with Stanford MMA. How did that come about?
So I've been pretty lucky, sort of. Lucky, and also like being from Adelaide, I'm very limited into what I can get in terms of not like martial arts. We got some very good grapplers coming out of Adelaide. We got some awesome ones. Guys like Craig Jones, Isaac, Declan. Yeah, we've got some really good guys coming out of Adelaide in terms of jiu-jitsu. But in terms of everything else, we lack it, especially in MMA. Like we've got some, like my coach, Nick, is a really good coach. But a couple of the boys at the gym, they're good, but they're young. And I was lucky enough. So when I was growing up, I really pushed myself out there to go and find gyms. Like I went to Phuket Top Team and like I trained over there, and that was my sort of first international experience, and I loved it. I loved meeting new guys, seeing different perspectives as fighters. What life they live compared to a life like mine, and you're able to talk and how they train, what methods they use. And, always I'm listening and learning. When I'm asking questions, I'm not just having a conversation. I'm logging everything that you're saying, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you can call it stealing data, and you know what I mean? I guess I do, you know what I mean? Because, like I said, I come from Adelaide, and no one's ever done what I'm doing, like, without pumping my tires. But I don't have an MMA fighter before me who goes, oh, when I fought overseas, this is how I did it. So I never had anyone to do that. I'm learning as I go. And that's why when I meet these guys overseas, I was able to learn this. So yeah, I've traveled a lot, and I was lucky enough to actually go to Liverpool. I was training out of Aspire MMA in Liverpool with Dean Garner and Aaron Robinson.
Yep.
And I was lucky enough to meet Danny Roberts, Danny Hot Chocolate.
Yep.
And we became friends. We sparred together. We beat each other up, and then we became sort of friends from that. We got respect from one another, and yeah, when I got signed, Danny sort of found out about it. It was luckily I went over. I was in Singapore with Alan Philpott. He was fighting on the Warrior Series.
Yep.
But he lived with Danny's best friend. When I got back to Sydney,
nice.
When I got back to Sydney, Roy, who's Danny's best mate, rang up Danny, told Danny I signed one FC, and Danny rang me up a few days later. And then a few days later, I was on a plane to America, because as soon as he rang me, he said, "Oh, you want to come over and train at Hard Knocks?" I was like, "Man, are you serious? Like, I'll be there in a few days." And so I literally booked the flight. Like 3 days later, I was in Florida training over there, and then that's how I sort of got involved. The train, Henry watched me, and he said, "Yeah, man, he's like, you're cool. You can stay with us." And and that's how it sort of started.
Yeah, it's interesting how connected the community is, because Philpott's now in Bondi, right, with Igor and Josh and the guys.
Yep.
Yeah. So look, Stanford's stacked. Like, you got Kamaru there. I mean, it's really stacked. I mean, you've got Martin obviously on as well. Like, their names there. Like, I've seen some of the photos that you had on Instagram. Like, to tell us what it's like, just even training in the presence of guys like this. Like, and what are some of the wow moments you had?
Yeah, it definitely goes back to what I said before. It's like when I first walked in. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not. I guess a lot of guys in there, you're not like. You of course you like Martin and all that. I like, I'm a big fan of them. I like them, but when definitely the wowing moment when I seen Robbie Lawler, I got to admit it. I didn't try to fanboy him. I tried to stay cool, because I was like, man, this guy's like, he's like a legit OG. Like, he is like the killer. Like, this guy, to me, and as you would know, like, there's not many people in the world, especially if you know about combat sport, that don't know the name Robbie Lawler or haven't seen one of his fights and gone, that guy is crazy. So he was a really wow moment. But to walk in there, and that was like I said from the beginning, and to see these guys and go, you know, I mean, they're just like me. Martin's
Mm.
just like a guy like me, man. We're just, you know, we're fighters, and you know, that's when I started thinking. I thought, man, I can do this. Like, you know, I mean, I could be a world class fighter, you know, because and that's what it was. But it's definitely like going in there and you know, standing along the likes of Kamaru Usman and Luke Rockhold and Robbie Lawler and you know, Linton Vassell and a lot of these guys, you know, you're like, oh man, like these are guys. Like, I've watched these guys. I know who you are, man. I've seen your fights. Like, you know, even that's funny. Like when you spar a lot of the guys, you know, I think to myself, it's funny, like, especially sparring with Danny. I'm like, because I've seen all of Danny's fights.
Mm.
I know Danny as a fighter, you
Yeah.
know, because you watch these guys and yeah, it is. It's surreal, man. It's sort of like a fantasy camp, but you
Yep.
know, once you punch in the face, it sort of wakes you up and go, you're not in a camp. You know what I mean? You're in a team, and there's only one way to earn respect among people like those guys is you gotta like you can't be given, you gotta earn it, and that's what I love about the gym is we're all friends, we all work together, but at the same time, you know, there's no space for you know, being nice to somebody or you know, we're not, you know, we're a gym, it's like a jungle in there, and
Yep.
the best will survive, and that's what Henry created, like a family brotherhood, but we also push each other so hard. You know that's why the results are that what that gym is getting.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many killers coming out of that gym.
Yeah.
Like in your journey so far, and it's more or less just begun, obviously at a world stage. What do you think is the most challenging aspect of the fight game in totality? Like including, you know, the notwithstanding the physical preparations and that, but like the business side. Like what do you see as the most challenging element of it?
I think with fighting in terms of like for especially for the MMA boy or you know especially MMA boxers and that I guess have it too,
Yep.
but it's not like any other sport in the world. You know we're the only guys in the world who we don't come like you know I'm friends with a couple of guys who play AFL football and stuff and you know that they rock up they get drafted at 18, they rock up the training, they get told what to eat, they get massage, they get physio, they
Mm.
get all the doctors are there. They get everything's set up for them. Everything's done for them. They get paid. The media's there for them. So they don't have to do a thing. They just got to rock up and kick a football. With
Yep.
us guys, and that's what I tell any young fighter learning the journey. Like I said, I'm learning this as I go. Any young guy with this, and you got to remember that you have to tick all the boxes. Whether you like social media or you don't, you got to be on social. You got to and you got to market yourself in the right way. You know, because brands, how they going to know who you are? So you got to find your own physio, you got to take care of your own body, you got to, you know, and it's hard for us guys in the sense because we literally, like I still to this point, up until probably, like I was telling you before, I got
Mm.
my weight where I want it now. I had to learn that diet myself, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Right.
I had to go and research this. So I had to, you know, I didn't have a doctor, a nutritionist at the cover. You could sit down with them and they can tell you, oh, this is what you should eat. You have to go and actively search all this yourself. And that's why I believe, you know, fighters are the best athletes in the world. No one beats us because we not only do the best sport in the world, that's the most exciting sport in the world that everyone loves to watch. I don't care what you say. There's nothing more exciting.
Mm.
And number two is, you know, like I said, we don't know when our next paycheck's coming in. And at the same time, no one's there to look out for us. No one's there to, oh, maybe you should take the day off, or maybe, you know, you come in here, I'll give you a massage. We got to do it all ourselves.
Yep.
And that's probably the hardest part that I think a lot of fighters, you know, I see a lot of young lads, they're all on social media and pumping their tires up and getting ready for the big show. And that's the first part is making that brand, getting signed. But once you get signed, that's when the hard work begins. And that's
Maintaining
what
it.
I've found, you know,
Yep.
like you said before, there definitely is levels to this game. There's the local scene, and then once you hit that international scene, if you haven't got all those things lined up already, by the time you hit there, if you haven't got your physios, your chiros, your diet right, you know, your sleep patterns right, your work pattern right. If you get to that if you think you're still going to be a conqueror and fight on the world level,
Mm.
like good luck, man, because there's killers out there who spend 24/7 in their gym honing in on their arts, and if you come in there, you know, not 100%, you're going to get exposed fast.
Yep. Yep. What's your opinion on the fight talent that we have in Australia, and where do you see this evolving in the next couple of years? Are there any
I think
names we should look out to?
I think there's a lot of good guys in that. I think there's a lot of talented guys in that who aren't getting picked up. I mean, I'm not a huge like I don't really remember names half the time anyway. But
Yep.
there's one guy that I certainly definitely like him, and I don't know how he hasn't been picked up as a guy, Josh Togo from
Yep.
ATT.
Yep.
I think he's one of the best guys in Australia. I think he's a gun, and you know, I mean, guys like him, like technically, according to the everyone, he's not signed, so he's not a high level fighter. But I think he's a great fighter. I don't know how he hasn't been signed yet. A promotion hasn't picked him up. Guys like him. There's a lot of a couple of guys in Adelaide who are coming up. There's one really good guy from Adelaide, Brando Pericic. I think that's how you say his name. Big the Balkan Bees meant to fight actually Panda. You know, the kickboxer from Thailand. Big Steve Banks. Banks, yeah. They were meant to fight, so unfortunately that fight fell through. But yeah, keep an eye out for Brando. He's a guy I can see him getting signed. He's a heavyweight. He moves well. He's fast. He's agile, and he's a true heavyweight. Like I have to work with him sometimes, and put it this way, I hate it because
you feel the weight.
He's a good guy. There's actually a couple of young lads that I worked with recently up in Queensland at CMPT. A guy named Ty. Is it Ty? Well, they called him Tank, and then there was another guy, Darcy. Two young guys, very very talented guys. I was actually quite impressed with them. So there are a couple of names that I really thought that got the talent and skills, and I guess they just got to wait their turn because it's hard for Australians. I mean, prior to this, to get signed because we're so far away internationally. You know, to get us is hard. So that's probably why promotions don't touch us as much. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of talent here that are ready to go. You know what I mean? So I'd be interested in those sort of names. Can't wait to see them hit the world stage.
Of course. When do you think you're fighting next, mate? One's got a couple more fights at the end of the year. Obviously, the COVID stuff is going to your halt.
Well, it's a tough one because a lot of people ask me this question, and I just say, look, man, I just don't know. Like, you know, it's a combination of issues because will I be allowed out of the country? B, will the country that's fine let me in? And C, like, I'm no fool. You know what I mean? Like, when it comes to putting on a show, there's a lot of guys, a lot of champions who haven't fought in a while need to get paid. So they're going to be at the top of the pecking order. But, you know, then saying that I'm ready to go whenever. You know what I mean? That was my big thing is keep yourself fit. I'm not one of those guys who just chats about it on social media. Like, I'm ready to go. Like, admittedly, I don't have the best camp like that I can have. I'm not in America, but I'm ready to go. The weight's down. I'm fit. I'm strong. You know what I mean? Like, anyone they call me up for, like, let's do it. But yeah, I mean, I'm waiting. Apparently, there's going to be a show in Singapore in October, and you know, I'd like to get on that. But I guess you just got to wait and see, man. It's a tough time for everybody. So, you know, hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah. Out of interest, what power, if any, do fighters have to influence decisions on being on cards? Obviously, with the COVID stuff, like you said, it's created this like stackload of fighters that need to get fights out. So it's a bit of an odd time. But can a fighter and their managers have a level of influence there? Especially,
I mean, yeah, of course. Like it's business, you know what I mean. If you got a strong manager or you're a big name, of course you got pull. You know what I mean? Like, it's business, you know. People can say yes or no, but I mean, just think of any business, you know. I mean, you're going to put on the guy who's going to make you the most money. The money makers are going to be the guys that get the call up, and that's fair. That's what I'm saying. I'm no fool to not knowing that. Like, you know, like it annoys me that I'm going to maybe have to be put on maybe not even fight this year, but I'm no fool to not knowing that. Hey, there's big names like, you know, like Ung and Martin and those sort of guys, Eddie Alvarez, these sort of names that, hey, they're going to get the call before, you know, us guys, of course, because they're going to want to put on a big show. But in saying that, it's also an exciting time because us guys who probably aren't recognised or aren't high up on the ranking, we might get a higher rank guy because all of a sudden you might not be able to get certain guys out of certain countries or they're not ready. So this could set up, you know, you could jump up the list quite quick, you know what I mean? So I'm ready to fight any guy in the top 5, you know what I mean? If you call me, I'm ready to go. So that's what I'm looking at. Like I said, I'm just trying to stay positive and, you know, and stay ready.
Awesome, man. That's an amazing mentality. Antonio, it's been a pleasure to chat to you, and we look forward to seeing you back in the ring and representing the Australian flag.
Thank you. I appreciate your time and all the best, man.
Cheers, buddy.